The conference room aboard the Galactic Council's flagship Unity fell silent as Ambassador Zektar's words echoed through the chamber. His four eyes gleamed with barely concealed contempt as he gestured toward the lone human representative sitting at the far end of the polished metal table. "You claim your species deserves recognition as a Tier 1 civilization," the Velterun ambassador continued, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had crushed countless lesser species' ambitions. "Yet you have provided no evidence of military prowess, no demonstration of tactical superiority. Your kind arrived here on borrowed technology, in ships gifted by the Altarians after your first contact. What proof do you offer that humanity possesses the warrior spirit necessary to stand among the galaxy's elite?" Admiral Sarah Chan remained perfectly still, her weathered hands folded on the table before her. At 58, she carried herself with the quiet confidence of someone who had seen the worst the universe could offer and emerged unbroken. Her steel-gray hair was pulled back in a regulation bun, and her dress blues bore only a fraction of the decoration she had earned over 3 decades of service. "Proof," she repeated quietly, the word carrying an undertone that made several of the alien diplomats shift uncomfortably in their bio-adjustable chairs. "You want proof?" The chamber housed representatives from 12 of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. The Velteruns, with their imposing 8-foot frames and natural armor plating, had dominated galactic politics for over a millennium. The crystalline Zekri hummed with barely contained energy, their forms crackling with the same power that had reduced 3 star systems to cosmic dust during their last expansion. The biomechanical Korthei calculated probabilities with quantum processors embedded in their skulls, while the aquatic Merdani floated in their pressure suits, their bioluminescent patches flickering in complex patterns of disdain. Each species had earned their place at this table through conquest, through demonstrations of power that had shaken the galaxy itself. Each had presented their credentials in blood and fire, proving their worth through military might that could reshape stellar geography. And here sat one small human woman, representing a species that had barely crawled out of their own gravity well a generation ago. "The Velterun speaks truth," clicked High Strategist Kexmari of the insectoid HiveNet. "Your people fought among themselves with primitive chemical propellants and metal projectiles until mere decades ago. Your largest conflicts involved perhaps millions of your kind. We have witnessed species prove themselves by conquering entire sectors, by demonstrating tactical abilities that reshape space itself. What do you offer?" Admiral Chan's expression didn't change. She had expected this. The intelligence reports had been clear about what humanity would face when they requested admission to the Galactic Council's highest tier. Every species here had carved their reputation through military excellence that spanned centuries or millennia. The Velteruns had perfected orbital bombardment tactics that could crack continental plates. The Zekri had developed energy projection capabilities that could ignite gas giants. The Korthei fought with mathematical precision that eliminated inefficiency and doubt. Humanity had none of these advantages. They possessed no world-cracking weapons, no stellar-scale engineering projects, no quantum manipulation abilities. They had arrived at this table through a combination of diplomatic skill, technological adaptation, and what their allies generously called creative problem-solving. It wasn't enough. Not for this gathering. "Perhaps," suggested Ambassador Velti of the Floating Air Mali, her voice carrying the melodic quality of her wind-based species, "the humans could demonstrate their abilities in simulation. We have virtual environments that could test their tactical capabilities against known scenarios." "Simulation proves nothing," rumbled Warchief Gractios of the Uarmani, his massive form causing the reinforced chair to creak ominously. "Any species can program favorable outcomes into digital phantoms. True worth is proven in reality, with real stakes, real consequences." The room buzzed with agreement. Several representatives exchanged knowing looks. This was going exactly as they had planned. The humans would be forced to withdraw their application, saving everyone the embarrassment of a formal rejection. Earth would remain classified as a developing civilization, protected but excluded from the real centers of galactic power. "You speak of real consequences," Admiral Chen said, finally, looking up from her folded hands. "Real stakes." Her voice remained level, but something in her tone caused the room's ambient noise to fade. "You want to see what humanity is capable of when everything is on the line. Empty words, Zektar dismissed with a wave of his armored appendage. Your species has never faced true existential threat. You have never been pushed to the breaking point where only the strongest survive. Admiral Chen smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. It was not a pleasant expression. Respectfully, Ambassador Zektar, you're wrong. She stood slowly, her movements precise and controlled. Humanity has faced existential threats. We've been pushed past every breaking point you could imagine. We've stared into the abyss more times than our records can count, and each time, we've found a way to stare back. She walked to the chamber's massive viewport, which displayed the swirling nebula where the Council fleet had assembled. Beyond the colorful gases, stars wheeled in their ancient patterns, many warming worlds that had seen civilizations rise and fall. You want proof of our military capabilities, she continued, not turning around. You want evidence that humanity deserves to stand among the galaxy's warrior races. I can provide that proof. But, I should warn you, once you see what my people are truly capable of, you may wish you had never asked. The silence stretched taut. Several representatives exchanged glances, their confidence beginning to waver. There was something in the human admiral's voice, a certainty that suggested she wasn't bluffing. Very well, Zektar said finally. What do you propose? Admiral Chen turned back to face the assembly. I propose a demonstration. A practical exercise that will showcase humanity's approach to warfare and tactical problem solving. But, I have conditions. You are hardly in a position to make demands, the Velterun ambassador responded, though his voice lacked its earlier conviction. The demonstration will involve real ships, real weapons, real stakes, Chen continued as if he hadn't spoken. No simulations, no staged scenarios. You want to see how humans fight when everything matters? Then, let's make it matter. She activated her personal datapad, and a holographic display materialized above the conference table. It showed a detailed scan of a massive asteroid field in a nearby system, the remnants of a shattered planet that had once housed a thriving civilization before the local star went nova. Hidden within that debris field is a Korth AI research station, she announced. Automated systems, minimal crew, conducting classified experiments on temporal manipulation. Intelligence reports suggest they're close to developing technology that could give them a significant strategic advantage in the next galactic redistricting. Several representatives straightened in alarm. The Korth AI delegate, Processor Unit 7742, remained motionless, but its optical sensors focused intently on the human admiral. That station is classified beyond even this council's clearance levels, it stated in its mechanical voice. How did you acquire this information? Chen's smile widened slightly. The same way humanity has always acquired what it needs to survive. We found a way. The implications sent a chill through the chamber. The Korth AI were renowned for their information security, their quantum-encrypted communication networks, their surveillance systems that track data flow across dimensional barriers. If humanity had somehow penetrated their intelligence apparatus. I propose a military exercise, Chen continued. Multiple species forces will attempt to locate and neutralize that research station. Whoever succeeds demonstrates superior tactical capability. The winner gets to determine humanity's status in this council. Impossible, clicked Kexmari. The Korth AI station would be defended by automated systems capable of eliminating entire fleets. The asteroid field itself is a navigation nightmare. Any approach would be detected long before. Unless you knew exactly how to avoid detection, Chen interrupted. Unless you understood how to use the environment itself as both weapon and shield. Unless you had experience fighting in conditions where conventional tactics fail and only adaptation ensures survival. The room fell silent again. The challenge was audacious, bordering on suicidal. The Korth AI research facility would be defended by some of the most advanced automated systems in the galaxy. The asteroid field was a graveyard of ships from 3 different civilizations who had attempted to navigate its chaotic gravitational currents. But the stakes couldn't be higher. If any species could successfully complete this mission, they would demonstrate tactical superiority beyond question. They would prove themselves worthy of the Council's highest tier. And, if they failed, well, the galaxy would be rid of some ambitious upstarts. The Veltaron accept this challenge, Zektar announced after a long pause. His pride wouldn't allow him to back down from a human's provocation. We will show you how a true warrior race conducts military operations. One by one, the other representatives accepted. The Zekri, confident in their energy manipulation abilities. The HiveNet, certain their coordinated swarm tactics would overwhelm any defense. The Merdani, believing their fluid combat doctrine would adapt to any situation. Even the Korthei accepted, though Processor Unit 7742 sensors remained fixed on Admiral Chen with what might have been curiosity or calculation. Excellent, Chen said, returning to her seat. Each species will commit a single ship and crew. Standard diplomatic protocols will apply: no weapons of planetary destruction, no targeting of life support systems, no permanent damage to participating vessels. She paused, her eyes meeting each representative's gaze in turn. The exercise begins in 48 hours. May the best species win. As the representatives filed out to prepare their forces, none of them noticed Admiral Chen activating a small communication device. None of them saw her lips move in a barely audible whisper. Phoenix 1, this is Sierra Actual. The fish have taken the bait. Repeat, the fish have taken the bait. Execute Protocol 7. Light years away, in the depths of space where Earth's newest stealth destroyer waited in perfect silence, a single acknowledgement light blinked twice. The galaxy was about to learn why humanity had never needed to demonstrate their military prowess before. They had been too busy perfecting it. The asteroid field known as the Shattered Crown had claimed more ships than any other navigational hazard in this sector of the galaxy. What remained of the planet Kethmori spun in chaotic orbits around its dying star, creating a three-dimensional maze of rocky debris, electromagnetic interference, and gravitational anomalies that defied conventional physics. Captain Vexhar of the Veltaron heavy cruiser Domination studied the tactical display with growing frustration. His ship, a kilometer-long monument to military engineering, bristled with enough firepower to level a small moon. Its armor could withstand direct hits from stellar artillery. Its shields could deflect energy beams hot enough to ionize gas giants. None of which helped him navigate this cosmic graveyard. Sensors are showing 17 separate gravitational distortions within our planned approach vector, reported his tactical officer. The asteroid rotation is creating interference patterns that blind our targeting systems every 14 seconds. Captain Vexhar's mandibles clicked in annoyance. The Veltaron approach to warfare was straightforward and brutally effective: identify the target, overwhelm its defenses with superior firepower, claim victory. This maze of spinning rocks and unpredictable physics violated every principle of proper military engagement. Status of other participants, he demanded. The Zekri vessel Crystal Storm is attempting to clear a path using focused energy beams, came the reply. They've successfully vaporized 14 asteroids but created a debris cloud that's spreading across 6,000 cubic kilometers. The HiveNet swarm ship Collective Purpose has deployed microfighters, but 37% have been destroyed by collision impacts. The captain's secondary eyes focused on a smaller contact at the edge of his display. And the human vessel? They identify themselves as UES Phantom, sir. We lost sensor contact with them approximately 6 minutes ago. Last known position was at the field's outer perimeter. Lost contact? Vexhar's voice rose. A ship that size cannot simply disappear. Their vessel appears to be approximately 1/10 the mass of our smallest participants, the tactical officer replied carefully. Their energy signature was already minimal compared to our other ships. Captain Vexhar studied the display with growing unease. Every other vessel in this exercise was a proper warship, massive, heavily armored, crackling with enough energy to power small cities. The human contribution looked more like a courier vessel than a military craft. It possessed no obvious weapons systems, no defensive fields that registered on long-range scans, no engine signature that suggested serious propulsion capabilities. Yet somehow, it had simply vanished into the asteroid field like smoke. 2 hours into the exercise, the Domination had advanced exactly 12 kilometers into the field. Each meter had been purchased with careful sensor sweeps, calculated trajectory adjustments, and frequent course corrections to avoid the larger debris chunks. It was methodical, professional, and absolutely infuriating. The communication channel crackled with updates from other participants. The Zekri had made better progress using their energy manipulation to clear wider paths, but their approach was creating massive electromagnetic disturbances that were attracting unwanted attention from the automated defense systems scattered throughout the field. Crystal Storm reports contact with defensive platforms, announced the communications officer. They're engaging 3 automated artillery posts. The tactical display updated to show the battle. Energy beams lanced through space as the Zekri ship exchanged fire with the Korth AI defense systems. The platforms were small, almost insignificant compared to the massive alien vessel, but their weapons were precisely calibrated to exploit weaknesses in shield harmonics. The Zekri are taking damage, reported the tactical officer. Their energy reserves are depleting faster than anticipated. Captain Vexhar nodded grimly. This was exactly why the Veltarun preferred overwhelming force to subtle tactics. Better to destroy everything in your path than to dance around obstacles like some timid prey species. Domination to Crystal Storm, he transmitted. Request support in exchange for clear firing solutions on defensive platforms. Negative, Domination, came the Crystal in reply. This is a competitive exercise. Solve your own problems. So much for interspecies cooperation. Vexhar wasn't surprised. Each representative species was here to prove their superiority, not to demonstrate collaborative abilities. Another 2 hours passed. The HiveNet had lost 60% of their fighter craft but had successfully identified 3 possible routes to the research station's approximate location. The aquatic Merdani were making steady progress using their fluid tactics to slip between asteroid clusters, though their bioluminescent navigation system was proving less effective in the electromagnetic chaos than they had hoped. Still no word from the humans. Sir, the communications officer reported, we're receiving a transmission from Council Command. Admiral Chen is requesting status updates from all participants. Captain Vexhar activated the communication channel. The holographic display showed the human admiral sitting calmly in what appeared to be an observation lounge aboard the Council flagship. She looked completely relaxed, as if watching a routine training exercise rather than a brutal test of military capability. Domination reporting, Vexhar began. We have advanced 28 kilometers into the target area. Defensive resistance is moderate but manageable. We estimate reaching the research station in approximately 6 hours. Crystal Storm reporting 15 kilometers advanced position, came the Zekri response. We have neutralized 7 defensive platforms but sustained moderate damage to our energy projection systems. One by one, the other captains provided their updates. Progress was slow but steady for most participants. The HiveNet had adapted quickly to the collision hazards. The Merdani had found a route through the asteroid field's lower gravitational layers that avoided most of the defensive systems. And the human vessel? Admiral Chen asked. Silence stretched across the communication channel. Captain Vexhar finally cleared his throat. Council Command, we lost sensor contact with Phantom approximately 4 hours ago. Their last known position. Phantom reporting. The voice that cut across the channel was calm, professional, and completely unexpected. Captain Vexhar's tactical officer nearly dropped his control interface. Phantom, this is Admiral Chen. Please provide your status. Currently conducting reconnaissance of the target facility, came the reply. We've identified 14 automated defense platforms, 3 mobile patrol units, and the main research station. Defensive capabilities appear to be primarily focused on energy-based attacks and conventional projectile systems. The communication channel erupted in protests. The Veltarun, Zekri, and HiveNet representatives all began transmitting simultaneously, demanding explanations for how a single human ship had somehow reached the target area while their own forces were still fighting their way through the outer perimeter. Impossible. Captain Vexhar's voice cut through the chaos. Phantom provide immediate sensor telemetry proving your claimed position. Negative, came the calm response. Transmission of detailed sensor data would compromise our operational security. This is unacceptable. The Zekri captain's crystalline voice rang with harmonic distortion. No vessel could have penetrated this deep without engaging defensive systems. Admiral Chan's image remained perfectly composed. Captain Morrison, are you prepared to proceed with the exercise objective? Affirmative, Admiral. Standing by for final authorization. The other captains fell silent. In the space of a few minutes, everything had changed. Somehow, impossibly, the humans had reached the target first. They were in position to complete the mission while everyone else was still struggling through the outer defenses. How? Vexhar demanded. What technology did you use? What weapon systems? What defensive capabilities? The human response was maddeningly simple. We turned off our engines and drifted. Drifted? The word came out as a strangled click. You cannot drift through a debris field. The gravitational forces alone would tear your ship apart. Only if you fight them, came the reply. We calculated the gravitational interactions, mapped the debris patterns, and found a trajectory that uses the natural forces to our advantage. No energy emissions, no engine signatures, no defensive fields to detect. We've been coasting on momentum for the past 3 hours. Captain Vexhar stared at his tactical display in dawning comprehension. While his ship had been forcing its way through the asteroid field like a battering ram, while the other species had been using their advanced technologies to overcome obstacles through brute force, the humans had simply adapted. They had turned the environment itself into an ally. But the defensive systems, protested the HiveNet captain. They should have detected your approach. They're designed to identify threats, came the human response. A ship with no active systems, no energy signatures, and a trajectory that matches natural debris doesn't register as a threat. We've been invisible because we chose to be powerless. The implications hit Captain Vexhar like a physical blow. The humans hadn't overcome the asteroid field's challenges. They had embraced them. Instead of fighting against the chaotic environment, they had become part of it. Phantom you are authorized to proceed with mission completion, Admiral Chen announced. Roger that, Admiral. Beginning approach to research station. What followed was unlike anything in Captain Vexhar's military experience. The human ship didn't announce its attack with energy buildup or weapons activation. It didn't challenge the defensive systems to honorable combat or attempt to overwhelm them with superior firepower. Instead, it simply continued drifting. The research station's automated systems never saw it coming. By the time the proximity alarms activated, Phantom was already within the defensive perimeter. By the time the weapons systems attempted to target the intruder, it was too late. The humans didn't destroy the research station. They didn't need to. Instead, they deployed what their captain described as boarding pods, tiny craft that attached to the station's hull like parasites. Within minutes, they had gained access to the facility's computer systems. Mission accomplished, came the calm announcement. Phantom has secured the research station and downloaded the temporal manipulation data. All defensive systems have been disabled. Captain Vexhar stared at his display in stunned silence. In the time it had taken his own ship to advance 30 kilometers, the humans had completed the entire mission. They had done it without firing a shot, without sustaining damage, without even being detected until the moment they chose to reveal themselves. How many crew members, he found himself asking. Aboard the station? Approximately 12 Korth AI researchers and technicians. No casualties. We used non-lethal suppression methods. No, Vexhar clarified, his voice barely a whisper. How many crew members aboard your ship? 22, came the reply. Including our AI systems operator and 2 cultural specialists. 22. The Domination carried a crew of over 3,000. The other participating ships ranged from hundreds to thousands of personnel. The humans had accomplished this mission with a crew smaller than most ships' engineering departments. Captain Morrison, Admiral Chen's voice carried a note of pride. Please prepare to receive the inspection team. Representatives from each participating species will need to verify your mission completion. Understood, Admiral. Phantom will maintain position at the research station. We'll have coffee ready for the inspection team. As Captain Vexar ordered his ship to change course toward the research station, he found himself reconsidering everything he thought he knew about military strategy. The Velta runway was to overwhelm opposition with superior force. It was direct, honest, and had served them well for over 1,000 years. But watching the humans operate was like observing a completely different philosophy of warfare. They didn't seek to overcome obstacles, they found ways to make obstacles irrelevant. They didn't rely on superior technology, they used whatever was available in ways no one else had considered. Most disturbing of all, they made it look effortless. As the Domination slowly maneuvered through the asteroid field toward the research station, Captain Vexar realized that humanity's admission to the Galactic Council's highest tier was no longer in question. The only question remaining was whether the other species were prepared for what that meant. The inspection shuttle Diplomatic Unity approached the Korthei research station with representatives from all participating species crammed into its observation deck. Captain Vexar studied the facility through the viewport, trying to understand what he was seeing. The research station hung in space like a crystalline growth, its geometric surfaces reflecting the light of distant stars. Docked alongside it, almost invisible against the metallic hull, was the human vessel Phantom. Up close, it looked even less impressive than its sensor profile had suggested, a sleek, angular craft that seemed more concerned with avoiding detection than projecting power. Visual confirmation of mission completion, announced Processor Unit 7742, its mechanical voice carrying a note of what might have been admiration. All defensive platforms have been deactivated. Station systems are operating under external control. No structural damage detected. Ambassador Zektar's mandibles clicked in frustration. How? He demanded, turning toward the human representative aboard the shuttle. Your species possesses no technology superior to ours. Your ship carries no weapons capable of neutralizing those defensive systems. How did you accomplish this? Lieutenant Commander Sarah Kim, the human liaison officer, smiled politely. With respect, Ambassador, we didn't neutralize the defensive systems. We convinced them we weren't a threat. Impossible, clicked High Strategist Kexmari. Automated systems cannot be convinced of anything. They operate on predetermined parameters. Exactly, Kim replied. We studied those parameters. The shuttle docked with the research station's emergency port. As the inspection team moved through the airlock, they were greeted by a sight that challenged every assumption they had made about human military capabilities. The station's corridors were undamaged. Emergency lighting cast a soft glow over pristine walls and undisturbed equipment. The only sign of any intrusion was a human crew member standing casually beside the main computer terminal, sipping what appeared to be a hot beverage from a ceramic mug. Welcome aboard, the human said cheerfully. I'm Petty Officer Rodriguez, Systems Specialist. Captain Morrison is in the main lab with the research team if you'd like to meet them. Research team? Zektar's voice rose. What research team? The Korthei scientists, sir. They've been very helpful in explaining their work. The inspection team followed Rodriguez deeper into the station, their confusion mounting with every step. Nothing had been destroyed. No doors had been blown open. No security systems showed signs of forced override. It was as if the humans had simply walked in and asked permission to look around. They found Captain Morrison in the station's primary laboratory, engaged in what appeared to be a friendly conversation with several Korthei researchers. The biomechanical beings, whose quantum-enhanced minds could process information faster than most supercomputers, were actually gesturing excitedly as they explained their work to the human officer. Captain Morrison looked up as the inspection team entered. She was a woman in her 40s, with graying hair and laugh lines around her eyes. Nothing about her suggested the kind of military leader who could single-handedly penetrate the galaxy's most advanced defensive systems. Ah, the inspection team, she said warmly. Perfect timing. Dr. Keth Vass was just explaining their breakthrough in temporal field manipulation. Fascinating stuff. They've managed to create localized time distortions that could revolutionize everything from manufacturing to space travel. Processor Unit 7742 stepped forward, its optical sensors focusing intently on the human captain. Explain your infiltration methodology, it demanded in its flat mechanical voice. Infiltration? Morrison looked genuinely puzzled. We didn't infiltrate anything. We knocked. The silence that followed was deafening. Ambassador Zektar's four eyes widened in disbelief. You knocked? On the communication array, Morrison clarified, gesturing toward a wall-mounted interface. We sent a standard diplomatic identification code and requested permission to come aboard. Dr. Keth Vass here was kind enough to grant access. All eyes turned toward the lead Korth AI researcher, whose biomechanical form seemed to shimmer with embarrassment. The approach signature matched known patterns for scientific vessels, it explained defensively. No aggressive targeting systems were detected. No weapons lock. No hostile intent indicators. The visitors identified themselves as research specialists investigating temporal mechanics. But, they're human military, protested the Zekri representative. Yes, Dr. Keth Vass agreed. But, they demonstrated genuine interest in our work. Captain Morrison has a doctorate in theoretical physics from what they call MIT. Her questions about temporal field dynamics were remarkably sophisticated. Captain Morrison smiled. When we realized this was a research station rather than a military target, we decided to approach it like researchers instead of soldiers. Amazing what you can accomplish when you simply ask nicely. The inspection team stared at her in stunned silence. The implications were staggering. While every other species had approached this exercise as a military operation, the humans had treated it as a diplomatic mission. Instead of overwhelming the station's defenses, they had simply ignored them by presenting themselves as non-threatening visitors. But, the mission parameters, Kexmari clicked frantically. You were supposed to neutralize the research station. Mission accomplished, Morrison replied calmly. All defensive systems are under our control. The temporal manipulation data has been secured. The facility is completely neutralized as a strategic threat. She gestured toward a series of portable devices that her crew had connected to the station's main computer systems. We've installed monitoring protocols that will alert us to any changes in the research parameters. If the experiments resume, we'll know immediately. If anyone attempts to weaponize the technology, we'll have advance warning. And, if they refuse to comply with your monitoring? Zektar demanded. Morrison's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes grew very cold. Then, we'll have a different conversation. The threat was delivered so quietly that it took several seconds for the full meaning to register. The humans hadn't just neutralized the research station, they had done it in a way that left them in permanent control. Any attempt to resume the experiments would require their permission. Show them the real proof, Rodriguez said quietly from beside the computer terminal. Morrison nodded. Computer, display operational status of all participating vessels in the current exercise. A holographic display materialized above the laboratory table, showing the positions and status of every ship in the asteroid field. The Domination was highlighted in red, its massive form struggling through the debris at a painfully slow pace. The Crystal Storm showed yellow, indicating moderate damage from its encounters with defensive systems. The HydeNet swarm ship was scattered across 3 separate locations, many of its components destroyed or disabled. But there was something else on the display that made Captain Vexar's blood run cold. Computer, highlight all human vessels in the operational area. New contacts appeared on the display. Dozens of them. Tiny signatures scattered throughout the asteroid field, so small and energy neutral that they had been completely invisible to everyone's sensors. What are those? Zektar whispered. Observation posts, Morrison replied casually. Stealth reconnaissance platforms. We deployed them before the exercise began to monitor the entire operational area. The numbers were impossible to ignore. At least 40 separate human installations, each one positioned to observe the approaches to the research station. Every move the inspection team's ships had made, every tactical decision, every moment of struggle through the asteroid field, it had all been recorded and analyzed. "You've been watching us," Vexar said, the words barely audible. "Learning," Morrison corrected. "Studying your tactics, your capabilities, your approaches to problem solving. Very educational." She gestured toward the display, where tracking lines showed the paths taken by each vessel. The Velterun preferred direct assault with overwhelming force. The Zekri rely on energy projection to clear obstacles. The HiveNet uses swarm tactics to overwhelm point defenses through numbers. The Merdani employ fluid adaptation to find weakness in enemy positions. Each approach was highlighted in different colors, showing the distinct tactical philosophies of the participating species. It was like looking at a textbook on galactic military doctrine, written in real time through direct observation. "And, what did you learn about human tactics?" asked Processor Unit 7742. Morrison's smile returned. "That we don't have any." The statement hung in the air like a physical presence. No tactics. No standard approaches. No predetermined doctrine. Humans adapt, she continued. Every situation is unique, every challenge requires a different solution. We don't have one way of fighting because we can't afford to. We've been the underdog for our entire history. We've survived by finding ways to turn our weaknesses into advantages. She pointed toward the display showing the human observation posts. You want to know what makes humanity dangerous? It's not our technology, we borrowed most of that. It's not our firepower, everyone here outguns us by orders of magnitude. It's that we never assume we know the right answer. Rodriguez activated another display, this one showing detailed intelligence profiles on every ship in the exercise. Power signatures, weapon configurations, crew complement, tactical doctrine, even psychological profiles of the commanding officers. We've been preparing for this demonstration for 3 months, Morrison continued. We studied every participant, learned everything we could about your species' approach to warfare. We identified your strengths, your weaknesses, your blind spots. The intelligence was comprehensive and devastating. Personnel files, tactical manuals, historical battle analyses, somehow, the humans had gained access to information that should have been classified at the highest levels. The Velterun believe in honorable combat, Morrison said, looking directly at Captain Vexar. You announce your presence, identify your objectives, and overwhelm opposition through superior force. It's served you well for a millennium. But, it also makes you predictable. She turned toward the Zekri representative. Your people rely on energy manipulation that requires massive power generation. Impressive, but those energy signatures can be detected from light years away. And your crystalline biology makes you vulnerable to specific harmonic frequencies. One by one, she addressed each species, cataloging their strengths and weaknesses with casual precision. The HiveNet's coordination protocols could be disrupted by targeting their command nodes. The Merdani's bioluminescent communication could be jammed with properly tuned interference. The Corthai's quantum processors could be overloaded with paradoxical data streams. How? Zektar's voice was barely a whisper. How did you learn all this? The same way we learned everything else, Morrison replied. We watched. We listened. We asked questions. You'd be amazed what people will tell you if you approach them with genuine curiosity instead of threats. She gestured toward Dr. Kethvas. The good doctor here has spent the last hour explaining not just their research, but the entire theoretical framework behind Corthai temporal mechanics. Not because we forced them to, but because they're proud of their work and excited to share it with someone who appreciates its elegance. The Corthai researchers' bioluminescent patches flickered in what might have been embarrassment. The human captain's questions demonstrated remarkable insight into transdimensional mathematics. I may have been overly forthcoming in my explanations. Information warfare, Processor Unit 7742 stated with something approaching admiration. You have weaponized curiosity itself. We've weaponized survival, Morrison corrected. When you're smaller, weaker, and less advanced than everyone else, you learn to use what you have. And what we have is adaptability. She activated one final display, showing the current positions of all vessels in the exercise. But, now, overlaying the tactical situation, were projection lines showing optimal strategies for each participant. Right now, Captain Vexar's ship could complete this mission in 43 minutes by adjusting his approach vector by 12 degrees and using the asteroid field's gravitational currents to slingshot past the outer defensive perimeter. The projection updated, showing a new route through the debris field that avoided most of the defensive systems. The Zekri could clear a direct path in 28 minutes by focusing their energy projection in concentrated pulses rather than sustained beams, but they'd need to recalibrate their harmonic frequencies to avoid creating electromagnetic feedback. Another tactical solution appeared on the display. The HiveNet could overwhelm the remaining defenses in 15 minutes by coordinating their microfighters in a spiral pattern that exploits the gap in the station's sensor coverage. Each solution was elegant, efficient, and completely tailored to the specific capabilities of each species. The humans had not only completed the mission first, they had figured out how everyone else could have done it better. You're not just sharing intelligence, Vexar realized. You're teaching us. The exercise was supposed to demonstrate military superiority, Morrison said. But military superiority isn't about winning a single battle. It's about ensuring that future battles become unnecessary. She looked around the room, meeting each representative's gaze. Humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We've learned that the best victory is the one that turns enemies into allies. The strongest defense is making war unprofitable. The inspection team stood in silence, absorbing the implications. The humans hadn't just proven their military capability, they had demonstrated a completely different philosophy of power. Instead of seeking to dominate their opponents, they sought to understand them. Instead of destroying obstacles, they found ways to make obstacles irrelevant. There's one more thing you should know, Morrison added quietly. This exercise wasn't about proving humanity deserves recognition as a Tier 1 civilization. She activated her communication device. Phoenix 1, this is Morrison. Execute final demonstration. The response was immediate. Every observation post the humans had deployed throughout the asteroid field suddenly came online simultaneously. Dozens of tiny platforms that had been invisible for hours revealed themselves all at once, their positions forming a perfect three-dimensional grid around the entire operational area. The exercise was about proving that we've been a Tier 1 civilization all along, Morrison continued. You just didn't know it yet. The display updated one final time, showing the true scope of the human operation. This hadn't been a single ship completing a tactical mission. It had been a fleet-level intelligence-gathering operation that had been running for months, using the exercise as cover to study the galaxy's major military powers. Every ship movement, every tactical decision, every communication you've made in this system has been recorded and analyzed, Morrison announced. We now have complete intelligence profiles on the military capabilities of every species represented here. The silence stretched until Ambassador Zektar finally found his voice. This was all planned. From the moment we requested admission to the Council, Morrison confirmed. Admiral Chen knew you would demand proof of our military capabilities. She knew you would design a test meant to demonstrate our weaknesses. So we gave you exactly what you asked for. She smiled, and, for the first time, it wasn't entirely pleasant. You wanted to see how humanity fights when everything is on the line. Well, now you know. We don't fight. We win. As the inspection team prepared to return to their ships, Captain Vexar found himself with one final question. What happens now? Morrison's expression softened. Now we go back to the Council chambers and formally complete humanity's admission to Tier 1 status. And then, we start working together to make sure none of us ever has to fight alone again. She gestured toward the viewport, where the stars wheeled in their ancient patterns. The galaxy is a dangerous place. There are threats out there that none of our species could face alone. But, together? Together we might just have a chance. As the shuttle undocked from the research station, Captain Vexhar realized that everything had changed. Humanity hadn't just proven their worth as warriors. They had proven themselves as something far more valuable. They had proven themselves as the kind of allies who could turn any war into a victory, and any enemy into a friend. Admiral Chen had been right. Once they saw what humanity was truly capable of, they would never look at the galaxy the same way again. Behind them, on the research station, Dr. Kethvas continued explaining temporal mechanics to anyone who would listen. The humans had left them a communication device, with an open invitation to continue their collaboration. It was, as Captain Morrison had noted, remarkable what people would share when you approached them with genuine curiosity instead of threats. The galaxy was about to become a very different place.